I've seen plenty of content from health influencers claiming that their diet is the one that reverses the plaque built up in our arteries. But I haven't seen any point out a fascinating study on the Mediterranean diet and the results indicating profound benefit, including reversing atherosclerosis. In this study, called the CORDIOPREV study, the researchers examined the impact two different diets had on reducing cardiovascular events, like stroke, heart attacks, and so on. In addition, the researchers measured the amount of plaque built up in the participants' arteries, so we'll discuss both. The two diets that people were randomly allocated to were the Mediterranean diet, as if that wasn't obvious, and the low-fat diet. I'll list a few of the details for each diet on the screen for you. Now, both groups of participants at baseline were the same across a list of measurements, and both groups were on each diet for 7 years. During that 7 years, researchers did further measurements and checks, especially at the 5-year mark, as we'll see. Now, before we get to the results, I should point out that this is a secondary prevention trial, which means that all the participants had coronary heart disease diagnosed, so a high-risk population. So when measuring the plaque in the arteries, the researchers measured at baseline, 5 years, and 7 years. Check this out. The black line is the Mediterranean diet, and the gray one is the low-fat diet. If the lines go down, that indicates reduced plaque in the arteries. And I probably don't need to spell it out for you, but the Mediterranean diet showed significant improvement, at least in the first 5 years. Now, interestingly, the low-fat diet did not show any improvement, although in defense of the low-fat diet, it also didn't show any notable worsening either, like the plaque was stopped in its tracks. Okay, remarkable, and exactly why I wanted to bring this study to your attention. But you know what else is remarkable? If we pop open the supplemental data, don't worry, this will be easy to read. The top line is the amount of calories consumed. So notice how at baseline both groups were consuming the same amount. Yet at 5 years and 7 years, the low-fat diet was in a greater caloric deficit than the Mediterranean diet. So in spite of more than double the calorie deficit, the low-fat diet underperformed compared to the Mediterranean diet. One more thing I should point out, there was slightly worse compliance or stick-to-itiveness with the low-fat diet. So that may contribute to some of the results here, especially since those that were on the Mediterranean diet were more compliant and improved their compliance. But even so, what we're most concerned about isn't if we see reversal of plaque. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's impressive. But what we actually want is cardiovascular disease events. So do we see a reduction? Do people experience fewer heart attacks, for example? Well, we'll get to that next. But if you want a deeper analysis of this study, including a full written research review of the study with applicable takeaways, it's included with the Physionic Insiders. The link to join, along with access to all my work, including live sessions with yours truly here, is in the description box. I hope to see you there. Well, if we crack open the data, you'll note the blue line is the low-fat diet, and the red line is the Mediterranean diet. In addition, you'll notice the 7 years of the trial on the horizontal axis and the cardiovascular disease incidence on the vertical. If the lines go up, that indicates more cardiovascular events. So clearly, considering there's a massive white space between the two diets, the Mediterranean diet outperformed the low-fat diet in this metric too. And you can imagine some of that is likely due to plaque regression. But how is the Mediterranean diet accomplishing these benefits in this high-risk population, people with established heart disease? Well, the researchers speculate that because the Mediterranean diet increases HDL, that's a high-density lipoprotein particles that can remove cholesterol out of the atheroma, so the plaque buildup. This process is called reverse cholesterol transport back to the liver for excretion. In addition, it's possible that the Mediterranean diet reduces inflammatory molecules that might encourage endothelial injury, so these key cells that regulate blood flow and blood pressure. In fact, while this study clearly shows long-term Mediterranean diet improves heart disease significantly for people with established heart disease, that last mechanism has been shown in some other studies before, especially in relation to a key oil used in the Mediterranean diet, olive oil. And yet, a prominent physician and scientist says olive oil and the Mediterranean diet cause heart disease. No, not joking, literally causes heart disease, in complete opposition of what we just went over. Why? Let's find out together in this next video.